to get a wire strengthener, place that here. We're going to bend it. These are in the drawer. Then they're in the drawer, those white drawers up the front. They're not in the trolley there. And we're going to bend it relatively to that shape. Throw some cutters. I'm going to cut it off. Right, and then that one's ready to go there. We'll put that to the side now. What I'm going to do is take some wax off, about that much. I'm going to warm this sheet up now. And we're going to place it on there, and then we're going to adapt it into place there.
See how he adapted the pallet, then he went over the risses, and now he's adapting it in those sulphus areas. So it's got to be really adapted in that sulphus before the land.
So a technique I like to use to get it nice and well adapted into there is I will then go and warm this up. I will roll this over into here, and because that's all nice and molten, I can really give that a good push in there, okay? Going to cut any major excess parts off here. Then I'm going to come around my model, and I'm not going to cut it right to those full extensions in there, but I'm just going to take off this major excess off around here. Could you get me, Jane Gorn, could you grab me one of those pre-formed ones, those warmed up ones, please? So we can see we've got that nice and adapted there. Then we're going to grab our wire here. We're going to warm that up a little bit. This will be hot. Metal and flame, burny burn. And then you can see that should just sit down into place. Okay? So it's sort of halfway through that pallet. This just stops this flexing when we take it off or when it's in the mouth. Now we've got a rim here. This has been in the warm water bath. Here's one I prepared earlier, as they say, in the cooking show. I'm going to get the water off, and I'm going to bend it. Remember those marks we made? So we've got one across here, we've got here, and here. We're going to bend it until it is conforming to those arches there. Then we're going to, what I find you need to do is, to get this well adapted, you need to cut this bit off in here. I'm going to warm up this wax here as well. And we're going to seat this into place. To get this relatively flat now, what you can do is just give it a bit of a push on the bench there. You can see that'll flatten it out a bit. Now we need to come in the inside and and really adapt this in. You might want to grab a little bit of extra wax as you're going. You want sort of 1.5 sheets worth of wax on this palette. So we've got that adapted in there. Now I'm going to start adding around this edge. So you want to just get a bit of a ledge to start with. So you can see I've made a little bit of a ledge there with that one. And then that allows you to build wax all the way around. So you want to build this wax so it fills in all this void here. We want to have this contoured all the way out to this edge. So before you add some on, you want to make sure it gets sort of solidified, otherwise it's going to run everywhere. Then I'm just going to work around and add to this. You want to make sure it's nice and hot when you add to it, otherwise you'll get air bubbles through it, and also the wax won't look homogeneous. It'll have like these white parts through it. Oh, you found it. Where was it? Oh, I was looking for it yesterday. So, when I am making these, let's say I'm making an upper and lower, I'll do all this part for one arch, then I'll move on to the next one. The reason being is all this wax is it's still very warm all the way through, and if I try and pull it off this model, it's just going to distort. So at this stage, I'm just adding all the wax I need to essentially carve this at the next step. So I would sit this aside for at least 15 minutes.
So at that stage, that's when you could start your next one and have another go of adapting. So you've got two on the go at one time. Don't sit and just let it sit there for 15 minutes. like anything, if you make it on that model, that's the model that you present to Don. You can't swap them over off different models because it's only going to fit this model.
Okay, one thing I'd like to point out is, have you seen me use this? Just to warm it up at the start. This is a bludgeoning tool. This needs to go in the drawer once you've warmed the thing up. It will not help you. Only at the very last stage. So that's where we're going to get that one to. Here's one I prepared earlier. So the first thing we're going to do is take this off. And you can see here that what we want to do is we want to extend our bite block to the edge of our model here. All this part is called the land. This is not actually the mouth. This is part of the model itself. So you can see if you've adapted it well, you'll be able to see that it comes into there. So I'm going to go around and cut this off.
He's cutting it on the side, not at the height, okay? Cutting the bulk off from where it's sitting on the land. So you need to leave it sitting up in the sulcus.
And there's a reason that I do this now. Some people go, oh, you do this very last. If you do this last, this gives you the edge here. You don't know where to contour this to. So once I do this, I'll be able to see, yeah, I've got a bit of a deficiency in the wax there, or I've added too much to that buccal area or that labial area. Okay, so that can go back on here now. We can see it's nice and adapted all the way in there. But if I rotate this round, we can see this is good here. Come around to the front. Maybe there's a bit of a void in there. So I'll come and add to that part. It's not much, just a little bit. And we want to get that, smooth that all up. Same again, we look down the front here. I've got a bit of a cavern there. Hey Jane, could you get me some cotton wool and a little bit of water so I can polish this after this? So I'm going to get this all, see how that's contouring in there? All the way to the edge of our model. Then in these posterior edges here, we want to have this nice and rounded, and we also want to have this contoured like this. The reason for that is in the mouth, when we close up in that posterior section, all these muscles activate, particularly the medial and lateral pterygoid, which you will learn about next semester. And when we're open, it's fine, but when we're closed, all this soft tissue runs over this area. So we need to free that up. So I'm going to carve this out like this. So this is one way you can do it. Or you can get your wax knife, heat it up, it's a bit hard to see here, but I'm just rounding that corner over. Okay, so we can see we've got those rounded over there. A little bit's come off the edge there, but that's all right. Now my area through here is pretty smooth, but I'm going to give this one more going over. Could someone give me a paint scraper from in the top drawer there in those white drawers, please? Oh, right, I've got one. So we get that all nice and smooth. Okay. Now what we want to do is, oh whoops, it's come off a bit. We want to get a nice sharp edge on this top part. Sure, we pushed it down on the table, but the best way to do that is with one of these. So you want to make sure it's clean. Pass me a tissue. Because if it's not clean, if it's got bits of dirt from scraping the bench or other wax work, just one's fine. It'll get incorporated. So give it a warm it up, give it a good clean. And now we're really going to heat this up. So it creates a nice sharp edge for us. Now to give the final finish, we're going to use our wax knife here. We're going to come round and give this a nice smooth edge. Notice how I've got this on the model the whole time, so it supports that fitting surface. Don't take it off, guys. So what I'm doing now is I'm just smoothing all this surface over. This helps give it a really sharp edge there as well. Now I'm just going to take it off, make sure there's no little sort of ridge here, because the next part we're going to do is we're going to flame it. So we want to make sure there's no stones sitting on here, no dags of wax, because when you flame it, it'll get incorporated into it. No pencil marks. So this has to be very presentable, because this is gonna be coming to the patient like this, and they're gonna be looking at it. So if it's got pencil marks, bits of stone, shit all over it, it's not gonna look really good. And you know, a patient will be paying anywhere from $2,000 to $4,000 for a full denture. So for those sorts of patients, that's normally a lot of money. In fact, anyone, that's a lot of money. So they expect things to be done nicely. So we've got that on there now. Now look, picking this up for the second time this whole thing, aren't I? So if I see people going around flaming it, trying to get it right, that's fine, but you're going to be doing it the hard way. we can do now is these edges, just on the very edge, we're just going to give it a very, very light flame. Not the fitting surface. And then we're going to pop it back on there. Okay? Then, to make it look presentable, we're going to get water or soap, and we're going to give it a polish. Soapy water even brings this up more. And there you can see our finished bite block. Yep. So it's contouring to those edges there. It's a bit further forward at the front. We've got a strengthener in there. We've got it adapted to all of these edges. We've got a nice clean surface here. These are the things that Jane and I will be looking at when we mark it. Are there any questions? No? Okay. I'm going to post this video on learning a Griffith. Last time I recorded it was got